Hey folks, Joe Valley here, host of the Quiet Light Podcast. Thanks again for joining us for another episode. This one is on a strange day to be listening to podcasts. It's on Thanksgiving Day 2021. So rather than bringing a guest on and take the chance that none of you are actually listening, because that guest is really important to us, you're just going to get me. And what we're going to talk about today is ad backs, the 3 different levels of ad backs, and how important it is to getting it properly done so that you get the true value for your business when you sell. Now, this is going to apply to those that are working with Quiet Light, working with other firms. God, why would you do that? But also those that are choosing to go ahead and list or try to sell their business on their own. They've gotten a call from somebody, an email, a snail mail saying, hey, I want your brand, I want to buy your business, and they make you an offer. The key thing for you to do there is make sure that you are properly calculating sellers' discretionary earnings and then applying a multiple to it. I can't help you with a multiple if you're selling on your own. You can try to guess that. Part of that is gauging how much you want to sell the business for. But getting the seller's discretionary earnings correct is all math and logic. And if you do it right, if you go through the exercise, and I'm going to do that with you today, this will help you make sure you get maximum value for your business and don't give what I call an ignorance discount to your buyer. Short story before we begin though. So a few weeks ago, I was at a boot camp for 8-figure sellers, really experienced entrepreneurs that are doing some pretty big numbers. I think the lowest revenue one might have been 14 million. And then there were some folks, close to 9 figures. But I was having a sort of a fireside chat with one of the attendees, and he does, somewhere around $50 million a year in revenue, and he's had an offer on his business, and we're talking about the value of his business, and his offer was sizable, like 10 times, and I asked him a question about ad backs, and he said, what do you mean? He didn't understand ad backs. He didn't do an ad back schedule, didn't dig deep enough to make sure he's getting maximum value for his business. So the simplest and easiest one I asked off the cuff was, well, do you use a cashback credit card? He goes, oh yes, no, absolutely. We do credit card stacking. We have multiple credit cards, and I get about $50,000 cash back a month just slid over to my personal account. And I'm like, okay, well, that's an ad back. He says, what do you mean? I'm like, well, that's an owner benefit to you, right? As an owner of the business, that's money in your bank account. He said, yeah, but I don't claim it. So I'm not paying taxes. I'm like, that's okay. The IRS hasn't figured out how to tax that because it's actually a discount off of your advertising. So they haven't figured out how to do that properly. At least according to my CPA. I said, it is an owner benefit to you as the owner of the business. And even though you're putting it over into your personal account, it's an owner benefit. And therefore, it's an ad back. And he kind of like paused. He's like, well, I get $50,000 a month in cash back. I'm like, I heard you the first time. That means that you have $600,000 a year in ad backs that you're not applying. He said, well, I'm selling my business for 10 times. I'm like, yes, that's $6 million added on to the list price of your business with math and logic by taking your time. And I didn't lecture him like I'm doing it now, by taking your time and working on the ad back schedule. He bought the beer that night, by the way. Perhaps I'll get something more later on down the road, dinner perhaps. But that's part of the fun of what I do at these events that I attend and get to chat with entrepreneurs individually, one-on-one, and just simply help. It's part of why I love doing what we do here at Quiet Light. Okay, so with that, what I'm going to do is jump into a partial presentation that I do oftentimes for AMAs and things of that nature. And if, by the way, anybody is running a mastermind group and happens to be tuning into this, or is a member of a master group and tuning into this, I love doing this stuff. So if you're watching or listening and you want, I'm trying to do multiple things at once here, folks. If you want me to do a similar presentation like this or a part of an AMA for your mastermind or anything like that, I'm all in. This is chapter 2 of part of an AMA that I've done shortened, and then we get to lots of questions, and that's the best part. But it's all about ad backs. It's the real value booster. And I talk about the 3 different levels of add backs. For those that are watching, you'll be able to see it all. For those that are listening, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I'm explaining what is on my screen. So add backs are simply a one-time expense or an owner benefit. That's really how it's defined. A lot of people will call it adjusted EBITDA. So earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, and then adjustments to that for that single owner operator salary, for the car that you run through the business when it's an online business and you don't need the car, your mobile phone, cashbacks, as I mentioned there, and then some one-time expenses. So those are owner benefits. And then one-time expenses. A one-time expense may be a patent, utility patent, design patent, or a trademark, or even an attorney that you hired in the last 12 months because you bought out your partner before then selling the business as the single owner operator. Well, that's a one-time expense that won't carry forward. To me, if I buy your business, it's not going to carry forward in the next 12 months. So all of those things are really, really important. One of the key things I want you to look at are all of the different types of add backs, one-time non-recurring expenses, accounting expenses, depreciation, amortization, and then the owner benefits and the payroll. So if you run a profit and loss statement, the way that you do the add back schedule is below the net income line, right? So you're going to run a profit and loss statement, hopefully from QuickBooks or Xero. You're going to export it to Excel, and you're going to look at the trailing 12 months seller's discretionary earnings. In this one I have up on my screen here, it is a net income of about $308,000. But then when I add back some kind of obvious add backs, like auto expenses, legal, meals and entertainment, office expenses that happen in the month of December, parking, tolls, rent, your payroll, single owner salary. And then some cases, some people make estimated income tax payments out of their business. And you got to make sure you do an add back for that. In this case, it's a $90,000 add back. There's a total of $113,900 in this simple add back schedule. And I just read through each of those lines. And remember, there's in the book, The Extrapreneur's Playbook, in chapter 12, it details 3 different levels of add backs and 6 different types of add backs under each of those levels for a total of 18. And that's still not fully complete. I could have written a whole book on add backs. But that's what you see. So in this particular P&L that I've got up on my screen here that some people listening can't see, 308 in net income plus the 113, that's $422,000 now. So instead of 300,000 is net income and a multiple of that, let's call it 900,000. Now we're looking at 420,000 and basically 1.26 million for the list price of the business. And as always, for you e-commerce physical product business owners, the multiple applies to the discretionary earnings and excludes inventory. So if you own inventory separately, it's sold separately. So you're running the business, you get net income or discretionary earnings of 300,000 or 3 million, just add or subtract zeros depending upon your comfort. You apply the multiple to that number, and then the listing is going to say plus the landed cost of goods sellable inventory on hand at the time of closing. The exception to that rule is incredibly large businesses, 50, 60, $100 million, and we may include the inventory in the purchase price, or website closers. No matter what size of the business, they include it in the list price of the business. That's not right or wrong. It's just different. Everyone else in this niche, in the sub $50 million range, generally excludes inventory. If it's included, it makes the multiple look a little bit higher, which may be good to attract clients, but makes it, buyers look at it and go, wow, that's a high multiple. It's all the math at the end of the day. You just need to make sure you're speaking the same language. If a buddy of yours says, hey, I sold my business for 4.5 times. Okay, say 4.5 times of what? Hopefully they'll say seller's discretionary earnings, which means they knew what they were talking about and knew what they were doing. And then say, did that include or exclude your inventory? That's when they're going to have a confused look on their face. I pretty much guarantee it. Inventory, if we're going to talk about the multiple and what it adds, generally it's about 0.5 point, right? So if you're selling your business for 4.5, the inventory value on average across all businesses might be worth another half. So it'd be at 5. So if they say 5 and it included inventory, probably quick math, they sold it for 4.5. Okay. All right. So jumping down into the 3 different levels of add backs. Level 1 is the fairly obvious type of add back. You should know what these are. They should come to your mind naturally. It's that owner's salary. And I say it should come to my mind naturally, but I was at a mastermind event. I won't say which one, and someone doing 5 million a year in revenue. I met him a few times. And he came up to me and said, "Just hey, look, is my salary, is my payroll an add back?" So it's natural to me, I guess, because this is what I do. If he wanted to, if I wanted to talk to him about Facebook advertising, that's natural to him, but not to me. So my role is to help with things that it's more natural to me. But your payroll as a single owner operator is an add back. Now, I say the word single owner operator because that's the critical component here. If you have 2 owners of the business and you're both working 40 hours a week and both taking a salary of $100,000, only one is an add back, because most buyers of the business are single owner operators of the business and will be running it and can't and won't choose to work 80 hours a week. So it's a reasonable amount of time and a reasonable payroll. The other exception is that if you have a non-transferable skill, meaning if you're a developer and part of your business is that you're in the grind every day doing development behind the scenes, I don't have that skill set. Your buyer is going to be probably a jack of all trades, and that's a skill set that they have to hire out for. So that's going to be a new expense on the books for them. So the best thing you can do is replace yourself with a developer that of your choosing at your cost. If you wait and say, well, all I have to do is hire a developer that costs an average, you can go to the Philippines and get one for XYZ, or Estonia and get one for XYZ, or whatever. They're going to come back and say, oh, well, no, totally understand that, but I only hire, US developers and they cost $150,000. If you do the add back yourself, you'll be in control. Okay, going on, we've got owner's health insurance, retirement contributions, amortization, depreciation, charitable contributions. That's number 5 on the level 6 level, 6 different obvious add backs here. The exception to the charitable contributions is if it's part of your marketing campaign, meaning you're going to plant a tree for everything that is sold, or you're giving away a free pair of socks for every pair of socks that you sell, like Bombas, right? That's part of the marketing campaign, and you're donating to charity, so you're writing it off on your taxes, but you can't do an add back for it, right? It's a tax benefit, but you can't do an add back in your add back schedule. And then the last one, number 6, is interest expenses. If you have a loan that you took out to buy inventory for the business, or you originally bought the business with an SBA loan, that loan does not transfer in the sale. I'm buying the assets of your business, and the assets of the business will transfer in the sale. And then you are responsible for the debt on that loan. None of that's going to carry forward to me. You're going to have to pay that off at closing. And that is why interest expense is definitely an add back. Let's jump on to number 2. What level 2, the not so obvious. Remember we said owner payroll? Well, what about the payroll tax expense and estimated income taxes? Payroll tax expenses are the things that most people forget and don't put on an add back schedule. Pretty obvious. That estimated income tax expenses, the $22,000 every quarter that was on the previous slide, that's something where it's rare, but some people pay it through their business and then go to sell their business on their own and forget to do an add back for it. So make sure you do an add back for that. And then we've got some one-time expenses, trademarks, copyrights, patents, logos, designs. Those things are fairly obvious, but they're one-time expenses. So if they happen in the trailing 12 months, you would want to do an add back for it. Again, your add back is going to be below the net income line in your P&L after you export it to Excel. Net income plus add backs equals seller's discretionary earnings. What if, though, you file for a trade back 2 years ago, or a patent, 2 years ago? Do you want to do an add back for that? Yes, you do. Why? Because you want to have your seller's discretionary earnings be representative year over year. So you want to do an add back for all of these things in the month that it occurred in. So if you spent, the final $10,000 on that patent design in March of 2019, and it's 2021, and I've got a P&L that goes back to 2018, you're going to do an add back in the month of March of $10,000 for that patent. That way, the discretionary earnings is truly representative of the business itself, year over year, month over month, that kind of thing. All right, legal expenses is number 3 in the list of number 6 of level 2. Generally, this is where it's a one-time expense. Could be that patent stuff, but oftentimes it's when one partner bought out another, or there was some lawsuit or something that may have happened in the trailing 12 months. You're going to do an add back for that. If it happens every year because you're making some crazy claims, it's not an add back. You have to look at the history of the business for sure. Number 4 here is a new bookkeeper, which seems kind of strange. Why would that be an add back? Let me see if I can explain it here. Let's say that you've been outsourcing. No, you've been having your bookkeeping done in-house, and you're paying an in-house bookkeeper $36,000 a year or $3,000 a month to do the bookkeeping for you. And that person is just doing everything your CPA is telling them to do, and it's probably done wrong. They're probably not even doing accrual accounting. So you're going to fire that bookkeeper 6 months into the trailing 12 months. So there's a $3,000 expense each month for January through June, but July through December, you've outsourced this bookkeeping to a really high quality e-commerce bookkeeper for a whopping $1,000 a month. So you've reduced your expenses there, and it carries forward to the new owner of the business, not to mention the books are done right and there's no internal politics inside the company. So you've got an add back there of $2,000 a month for the first 6 months of the year. $2,000 a month, right? $3,000 for that bookkeeper. The new carry forward expense is $1,000. So you do an adjustment of $2,000. That's a $12,000 add back. Your business sells for a 4-time multiple. You just added 48,000 legitimate dollars, black and white math and logic, to the list price of the business. Okay, number 5 here is equipment purchases. What? Most of these businesses don't have equipment except in December, maybe November of this year, because of supply chain issues. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Christmas presents that you buy for your family. You bought a new TV. That's not a real office expense. It's going to stay in your man cave or woman cave or whatever it is that you have. Your laptop is a business expense. Your new monitors, your double, your triple monitors, it's a business expense. It's a true one. But that type of equipment doesn't transfer with the sale. You're selling the assets of the business that drive revenue. But if I'm buying your business, I already have a laptop. I already have multiple monitors. Those things don't carry forward. So those equipment purchases in the last 12 months that are not going to transfer with the sale are add backs. If they're a one-time expense, like a new mold on a new product design that you have a patent on, if that was a $15,000 cost to do the mold, that's a one-time expense because that mold's going to last for a very, very long time. That same expense is not going to carry forward to next year. That's the equipment expense. The personal and miscellaneous usually gets buried throughout the P&L. This is where you've got to dig deep, right? Everybody that's going to buy an online business has a mobile phone. Otherwise, they should not be buying your business. My mobile phone is a business expense, but it's not being sold with the business. So my $300 a month that I spend on my mobile phone is not a new expense that the buyer will carry forward to the buyer. They already have one. It's an expense that they'll just be able to write off. So stuff like that, you can put in an add back schedule as well. Again, though, black and white, math and logic, nothing gray, can't be tricky here. You've just got to be black and white with it. All right. Level 3 is where most people lose their shirt. Okay. When they sell a business on their own, they're getting hit up by one of these really intelligent, charming aggregators that will buy their business for all cash, close in 30 days to avoid the broker fee. They're not going to talk to you about add backs. They're going to laugh and chuckle at the enormous ignorance discount that you're giving them when you sell them your business because you didn't read chapter 11. Chapter 11, I said 12 before, chapter 11 of the Expert's Playbook, or you didn't dig deep and do your own add back schedule after reading it. Number 1 on this list of level 3, website redesign. What? That is a real business expense, Mr. Valley. How could that possibly be an add back? Well, let me tell you how. You don't redesign your website every year. So therefore, at the very least, it's a partial add back. I sold a company called Junebug Weddings to a great guy named Matt Howitt years ago. Matt now owns Profound Commerce, an aggregator that just raised $53 million after he bought 5 Amazon businesses from us. Junebug had nothing to do with it. It was his first business. The owners of that business redesigned Junebug in the trailing 12 months prior to selling it. It was a $20,000 website redesign. Historically, it was an older company. They didn't do a redesign every year. They did it every 5 years. And so logic was that they were not going to do it again, the new owner, for another 5 years. So in that case, we did 100% add back of that business. It was bought by Matt, absolutely no arguments whatsoever. If you do a redesign of your website every 2 years, for instance, on average, just look at your P&L, then at the website redesign is at least a 50% add back. At least a 50% add back. You get in the math here, you do it every 3 years, it's an adjustment, 33% add back. Every 5 years, 100% add back. So website redesigns can be an add back. Next, number 2 here is masterminds. Masterminds, but that's a business expense, Joe. Yes, it is. It's a business expense that you choose to have, and it's for you, the owner of the business. It's an expense that actually doesn't carry forward. If you're a member of e-commerce Fuel or Blue Ribbon Mastermind or Ecom Crew Premium, that expense is for you, not for me if I'm buying your business. I may choose to join those, or they may not let me in because I have multiple brands, or I compete with their biggest membership person. I don't know, but it's something that's in your head, goes to you, and it does not carry forward to the new owner of the business. The exception to this is when you have a membership for your CMO. Let's say it's to whichever one it might be, right? Well, let's call it Blue Ribbon. So you have access to smart marketer stuff. Your CMO that's an expense, and your CMO is going to carry forward with the business. So that mastermind expense may carry forward, but for you as an owner, it doesn't carry forward. Number 3 here is cashback or converted rewards. This is the situation where this person had $50,000 a month in cashback. Wouldn't you love to have that? That's amazing. $50,000 a month in cashback. A lot of people actually take the reward points. Jeremy from e-commerce Fuel, he loves the reward points. That's okay. He can still get the value of those reward points in an add back schedule. What you got to do is create a separate tab with a column for each month. Start January 2018 all the way up to the month that you're selling in 2021. And then on row 1 or row 2, I guess it would be, right? Row 1 is the months. Row 2, you would put in the total amount of reward points gained for that month. Row 3, you do the cash value. Let's say it's American Express, it's at 1%. And then you have the cash value of those reward points that you've gained. And that gets pulled over into the add back schedule. This alone can add tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of value to your business, depending upon the size of your business. Most often missed add back when selling on your own or to an aggregator. Speaking of aggregators, this one is not on the list. It didn't make the 18, but let me ask you a simple question that you can't answer because I'm the only one with the microphone. If you're selling exclusively to an FBA aggregator, they call you, for instance, they snail mail you, they knock on your door. I love your brand. I want to buy your business. We'll pay you all cash and close in 30 days. Show me your P&L. Can you do an add back for Jungle Scout and Helium 10? Question, right? No, those are true business expenses. Are they business expenses that will carry forward to that aggregator that reached out to you? No, they're not, because they already subscribe to those. So if you're selling exclusively to an aggregator, maybe you can go, all right, Mr. Aggregator, look, black and white, math and logic. Yes, I subscribe to Jungle Scout and Helium 10. Yes, I spend $500 a month. It's $6,000 a year. I'm putting that in my add back schedule. And here's the logic to the far right of the add back schedule. You already have these subscriptions. This expense does not carry forward. They can't really argue that. And I know this because I was on a LinkedIn Live session, AMA, with an aggregator And he was the host, and I was trying to thread the needle with this one, and it was really awkward. But he kind of had to shake his head and swear under his breath and admit that it's truly an expense that doesn't carry forward. Okay, Joe's on a tangent there. What about number 4? Overpaid relatives or bookkeepers? The overpaid relative is a true story. I was selling a business in the weapons space. Yeah, I was trying to find the right way to say that. Really cool business. Actually, the guy that bought it lives not too far from me here in North Carolina. Great guy, still runs it today, growing it like crazy. The guy that ran the business paid his brother $20 an hour to do customer service for 30 hours a week, so $600 a week. As we dug deeper into the valuation of the business, turned out his brother did all canned responses for customer service. He was very organized, set up SOPs, canned responses, and it really worked out to be about 5 hours a week. So he's getting very overpaid to do customer service, and he's not really working 30 hours a week. He's working 5. So my advice to that business owner, guy's name was Kevin, I said, Kevin, I know you love your brother. I think you should fire him. And this was just before Christmas. Like, that was the total grudge. Like, fire your brother, fire him and hire a VA. And we're going to add, I don't know, it was $600 a week. It's $30,000 a year. I said, we're going to add at least $20,000 a year in bottom line discretionary earnings. And in the list price of his business, let's say it was 3.5, that's adding $70,000 to the list price of his business. His brother was simply overpaid. He didn't want to fire his brother, but it was so obvious. And that one is such a clear picture of math and logic that I did an ad back for it anyway. And Kevin was so sincere and honest. And the buyer of the business did end up letting his brother go and put his 15-year-old son in charge of customer service and didn't pay him. That was just his chores. His allowance was, maybe he got paid a little bit, but he did it in 5 hours a week for many, many months before he decided to outsource it separately to a VA at, I think, $5 an hour. So math and logic, overpaid relatives. The bookkeepers is part of it. I told you that before. If you hire that bookkeeper that's in-house, paid $3,000 a month, and hire one for $1,000 a month, it's more qualified. It's an add back for that time period in the trailing 12 months. Number 5 is reduce cost of goods sold in the trailing 12 months. And this is a true story situation. But let me ask you the question. If you're in due diligence and the buyer of your business notices that your cost of goods sold went up $1 a unit in the last 6 months on a unit that sells, a SKU that sells 1,000 units a month, are they going to be cool with that? Or are they going to go, wait a minute, Mr. Seller, the cost of goods sold is up $1 a unit. That's $6,000 extra in COGS in the last 6 months. That carries forward to me from the first 6 months in the trailing 12. We need to do an adjustment to the purchase price of the business. Would they be right? Hell yes, they would be right. It's math and it's logic. Therefore, the reverse is true. If you have reduced your cost of goods sold or reduced packaging fees, and this is combining number 5 and 6 in level 3 together, if you reduced those in the trailing 12 months, it's a reduction that carries forward, just like that bookkeeper. So you do an adjustment. So I sold Color It for a guy named Mike Jackness from Ecom Crew, and I sold it to Matt Howitt down at Profound Commerce. Everybody's very interconnected these days. Mike had renegotiated cost of goods sold on his top selling SKU. And I think it was like by $1.80 a SKU. It's pretty substantial. And in the trailing 12 months, there were 4 full months on the books where there was that reduction in the cost of goods sold. So therefore, there were 8 months prior where that increase with that prior higher price of $1.80 per unit was on the books. So we took the total number of units sold in the first 8 months of that year times $1.80. So 1,000 times $1.80, $1,800 add back. 2,000 times $1.80, $3,600 add back, and so on and so forth. Bottom line is it ended up adding $54,000 back to the add back schedule times the multiple of the business. Let's just say that one sold for somewhere between 3 and 4 times. So we're talking about $150,000 to $200,000 added on to the list price of the business. clear math and logic, multiple offers, legitimate, black and white. And if the reverse was true, if COGS went up, the buyer would have an issue. So therefore, COGS went down, you can do an add back with it. All of these folks are legitimate black and white math and logic add backs. And I know I've said that probably 20 times. Chuck's probably going to listen to this and count them and then post something about it. Thank you, Chuck. Chuck Mullins, Chucky from Quiet Light. He's one of the best advisors we have. And he likes to bust my chops about math and logic. Just go to Amazon and see the #1 review. He did it. And it's there. It's me and it's my voice. And he's making fun of me because I think I said it 19 times in the book or something like that. Anyway, it's all from, this is all from chapter 11 of the Exitpreneur's Playbook. Don't make this mistake. I was a guest on a podcast probably 30 days ago. And after we wrapped up the podcast, the podcaster who runs an agency said that, he was getting an offer for his business. And I gave him a copy of the book in advance of recording, because that's what I always do. I make sure they've got it so we could talk about real things. I said, well, as it comes through, reach out. I'd be happy to help. So he reached out and he sent me the letter of intent to review just as a favor, which I did. And then we got on a call and I pointed out some really obvious things. One of them, there was a working capital peg in there that was going to be quote unquote determined in due diligence, which was really just an opportunity for the buyer to renegotiate. You never, ever do that. That's in chapter 15 of the Exitpreneur's Playbook. No working capital pegs. As we're talking, he talked about, doing his add back schedule and I started poking around and asking questions. And it got to the point I'm like, did you even read the book? Did you read chapter 11? He goes, no, I didn't. I'm like, what are you doing? You were giving away so much money. And I probably identified $300,000 in add backs that he completely missed. And he'd already shared his P&L with his buyer and they'd already made an offer. I'm like, it's right there. It's in the book. I wrote it thinking that everybody would buy it and do the work, but don't make that mistake in that situation. He has it. It's on his desk, but he didn't take the time to thumb through chapter 11 and do a proper add back schedule and instantly was losing $300,000 on the offer that they made. Of course, the offer was too low and he needed to make it higher and he needed to remove certain things from the letter of intent. Don't make those mistakes in anything with regards to your business. Your business is very likely your most valuable asset. When you sell your business or exit your business, and eventually we're all going to exit our businesses one way or another. If you want to do it on your terms, the odds are that at least 50% of all the money you will ever make from your business comes the day that you sell it. So pay attention to the details. Hire an e-commerce bookkeeper, even if you're running a SaaS business. Don't do it in-house. Get the numbers right so that you've got good reports to analyze every single month. Ezra Firestone got up and talked about a presentation, analyzing his P&Ls at an event that I was at once. And he found a whole bunch of money that was being overcharged in fulfillment charges to the tune of 7 zeros, a number and 6 zeros. So it was very large. When he went to sell the business, if he hadn't found that, it would have cost him millions of dollars. So having proper P&Ls to look at and reports to look at every month will help you quickly review them and analyze them and catch trends. So definitely focus in on your P&Ls. Reverse engineer your pathway to your goal, which means first you've got to set a goal. You've got to set a goal with dollars, date, and feelings. Yes, I know, touchy-feely. Thank you, David Wood. David Wood is a great mentor and coach to business owners. Reach out to him at focus.ceo. But David got me that feelings part, right? It goes like this. I will sell my business for $5 million in Q1 of 2024. And when I do, I will feel unburdened because I'll be out of debt. My kids' college tuition is paid for. I've got money in the bank and I can spend more time with my family. There were 4 feelings in there. Those feelings will help you get over those tough days as entrepreneurs. It'll help you get over those hurdles, roadblocks, potholes, and everything that we have as entrepreneurs that sometimes come in, a morning, sometimes for the whole day, sometimes the whole week is bad, and sometimes a month or a year is bad. I've had years where I'm excited because I have carry forward losses on my tax return. That's not something we strive for and want to be excited about, but it happens. If you've been an entrepreneur long enough, odds are you're going to have a situation like that. So without a goal, you can't march towards that and get beyond those tough days that you have. Write it down. It's proven statistically, you're 42% more likely to succeed if you write down your goals. If you look at them regularly, that goes up by 10 times. It's all there. It's proven, it's history, but 80% of people don't do it. Entrepreneurs should all be doing it. And then once you set those goals, reverse engineer a path to it by knowing how much your business is worth today. And that's what we're here for at Quiet Light. We're here to help. It's free. The valuation is free. Just like when I first called Quiet Light back in 2010, Mark spent 2 calls with me. Second call was after analyzing my P&Ls and having a good conversation when he said, Joe, go away. Basically, that's what he said. He said, go away. I think it's in your best interest to wait another 6 months because your trends are coming up strong after the Great Recession. You wait 6 months, you're going to make a heck of a lot more money. The other firms that I talked to just wanted to get their hooks into me for a commission. It would have been less of a commission if they had told me, if I'd signed it. If they had told me to wait and I went with one of them, they would have earned more money and I earned more money because of it. But have that conversation with somebody on the team. Y'all know they're all entrepreneurs. They've all built, bought, sold their own online business, and they're here to help first and foremost. They've all had great successes before, and they will help you with your eventual exit. Some of you will learn that you're not ready to sell your business. Some will learn that you're pretty far away from your goals. Some will learn that your business is much more valuable than you thought it was, and that you're much more closer to your goals than you thought you were. So reach out, have a happy Thanksgiving, enjoy this wonderful world of entrepreneurship that we're in, and pick up the Entrepreneur's Playbook if you've not done so already. Thanks again for joining me on a solo episode of the Quiet Life Podcast. We'll talk to you soon.